So, despite Trump ordering declassification of many documents related to the Russia probe, it turns out that the FBI, DOJ, and Intel community is still going to recommend redactions on those. This was a discussion I was having with people. Most people want full transparency. Even those that dislike Trump, most people just want to see all the material and make up their own mind. Now, there are some that will argue against this, but I think that, I don't know if they're trolling or if they're afraid of what might come out, but I think give people the benefit of the doubt. Most want to see full transparency. And the criticism is, though, if you release some of these documents and they're redacted, then how do you know what the context is? For example, if Trump releases 10 pages on something and 5 of the pages are redacted, even if the 5 pages we could see, it's like, wow, this looks like a terrible abuse was committed against him by the FBI or the Intel community. Someone might say, yes, but we don't know the context. What's in the 5 pages that are redacted? So it would behoove everyone to have full transparency. The problem is, it's not Trump that wants all these redactions. It's the FBI and the DOJ, the very people that are being accused of behaving in a poor manner, whether it be incompetent or corrupt. They are the gatekeepers of who gets to see what, because they kind of have Trump in sort of like a double bind or a paradox. What happens is this: people that dislike Trump, like Democrats or the Intel community, will say, you can't release this info. There has to be redactions, because if the redactions aren't there, then sources and methods by the FBI and the Intel community will be jeopardized, and lives could be endangered. But the problem is that they've cried wolf about this so many times. For example, when Devin Nunes released his memo, you heard this all over the media. You heard this from the Intel community. You heard this from the Democrats. Oh, we can't release this. If we release this, then people's lives will be in danger, and it's going to be bad for America. You just have to trust the FBI. If you're releasing this stuff, you're hurting the FBI and the Intel community. So then the memo gets released, and absolutely no lives were endangered whatsoever. Sources and methods weren't disclosed. Nothing was there. The only thing that was there was to embarrass the Intel communities and the FBI. So who would have thought when you give these groups the authority, they're going to basically try to hide things that are embarrassing to themselves. And they do that by saying, oh, it would be endangering national security if we release this information. Some of the things that were redacted, for example, were they redacted that they paid like $50,000 for a table. Now, what sources and methods were in danger for that? None whatsoever. It was just embarrassing to the Intel community, so they didn't want us to see that. So they lied to us and said, oh, well, we have to have these redactions or it would endanger sources and methods. They do this over and over. They're constantly trying to keep information from the public. They want to be as secretive as possible. They fight FOI, Freedom of Information requests, all the time, and this is no different, especially considering the entire point of this is, did the FBI act in a corrupt or incompetent manner? So clearly they're going to advocate for, we don't want to release information that would make them look in a poor light. Now, the double bind portion of this is then these same groups, particularly the Democrats or people that dislike Trump, will then say, aha, well, if Trump is going to release things that are redacted, he might as well not even release them. It proves that Trump's having selective releases, and we have no idea anyways what's in the redaction portion, so the whole release is worthless. We don't want to see any of it if any of it's going to be redacted. So the argument is this: these people are saying you can't release all this stuff unredacted because it will endanger lives, and if there are parts that are going to be redacted, you shouldn't release any of it all. In other words, no transparency for the American people. Despite the fact that I believe that even most people that dislike Trump want to see all the chips on the table. They want to see what happened. They believe that this will prove that the FBI didn't act improperly. So it's very puzzling. And then when you mix that in with who would be who's one of the groups that are advocating for transparency, you would assume that at least even people that dislike Trump in journalism would advocate for the release of more information. That's kind of been the argument for journalists going back centuries. They're supposed to get as much transparency as possible. They want to uncover as much government secrecy as possible. They'll tell you, the mainstream media will tell you all the time, freedom of the press is crucial because it's them shining light on corruption in the government, and they're the voice of the people. Yet, if you turn on the news, the mainstream media, places like CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, they're all fighting with the Intel communities tooth and nail to keep the American people from seeing these documents. Who would have thought we'd see the day when journalists, the so-called free press, is advocating for more government secrecy? They don't want transparency at all. It just shows that these people are not free press anymore. They are just mouthpieces for the establishment and the deep state. That's what they are. They are just advocating, and we know this because if we did have a free press, do you think we'd have went to the Iraq War? Do you think we would have had more questions about bailing out these bankers in 2008? Or how about the attacks in Libya or Syria and things like that? It's strange, isn't it, how they always seem to follow the intel community and their word, even if it means pushing wars and things of that nature. So now here we are covering for them once again, saying, no, it's un-American. It's a danger to this country if Americans are able to see these documents. You remember, never forget, you had CNN telling you that it was illegal for you to look at the WikiLeaks documents. Only you had to trust them. You were only allowed to go through the mainstream media to get this news. It's absolutely disturbing and disgusting. I think that that's what a lot of the press has become. So I think that real journalists would definitely want more transparency and want to see this. And yeah, maybe they then spin it how they want. They put their own biases on it, but they want the info out there. And I think that's something that every American should want. We should want as much info as possible. And so remember, if you're one of those people that are like, I want full transparency, and if Trump can't give me that, then I think that that's illegitimate on him. This isn't him. This is the FBI at this point saying, no, we are going to have redactions. And keep in mind, this goes along with what people like Brennan were saying, who is the former CIA director that's out there the other day saying, it's the patriotic duty of the FBI and the intel community to resist Trump on this order because this is such a dangerous thing. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about disobeying a rightfully given order from the president because they just don't like him and they think it would be bad for them. This just goes to show even more of what the argument is about the power of these unelected intel people and how there could be corruption going on. They're not following orders. They're not following the law. So I think we should all want to see this. I look forward to reading the documents when they come out. And remember, it's not Trump right now that's saying we need to redact a bunch of things and have a bunch of things classified. That's the Democrats and the intel community.